Hey everybody, Ozark Gilman here. So I'm going to talk really quick today about kind of the collapse of Western society we see happening in front of us. This was in LA as groups of flash mobs, looters, etc. Completely destroy stores and everything. There's really no getting away from this, and really, it's absolutely unsustainable. I mean, this kind of thing is obvious. And eventually things are and will be coming to a breaking point. As Governor Abbott in Texas, runs illegals by the thousands up to places like DC, New York, etc. It's really just a small fraction of the 3 million crossing the border. When you don't have a sovereign border, you won't have a nation, you won't have a people, etc. And again, replacing a population is not going to keep a nation what it is. We At this point we're way past the point of caring about if people are offended or not. Anything. This is history. These are facts. Deal with it. In the past, times like this have created population bottlenecks. Darwin was right absolutely about one thing, and that was what he kind of called survival of the fittest. A lot of things we think are genetic adaptations are actually not really. They were just the ones who had the right traits were the ones who survived. Now, I'm not talking so much in the animal world sense or anything. I'm talking about the observable historic phenomenon in the past with those of us human beings, especially those of us from the Western world, descended from it, our civilization, our culture, our people. 75 to 95% of us, for instance, who are of the Northwestern European descent, makes up about 60% of America's population. I can speak for myself, my own history. It's what I know. It's what I've studied. Anything you can look into your own or whatever. But again, this is my own, so it's what I'm more familiar with. 75 to 90% of us have the same Y male chromosome, R1B. I have that one myself, and even the rest of them have the left other 25-30% have similar uh, European male Y chromosomes. If you're not aware, the male Y chromosome passes from father to son pretty much unchanged, except for environmental adaptations that make it kind of unique and stick out, though it's still the same. Male. In other words, 75 to 90% of us were descended from one dude who survived. Back in 500 AD, there was a massive Icelandic volcano, put a cloud of ash over all of Europe. Everything from war, famine, disease, etc., has made these times that are very difficult, so only the strongest of the men figure out how to survive and move on. Now, what does all this have to do with our current situation? Well, again, as you can see here, the policies of self destruction are becoming apparent in big cities with the open border. The anti Western people running the West realize it's to the self destruction, and it is quite deliberate. And everything I've talked about on this channel, I've shown the receipts from critical theory to Build Back Better, World Economic Forum. You'll own nothing, you'll be happy. Of course, it is destruction by design, but to maintain power for themselves for a certain small few. The old families of Europe did this as the Industrial Revolution and technology increased, had to gain manipulative control of the financial systems through the central banks. They're doing it again now through Build Back Better, everything. But of course, it's backfiring on them. You can't do something on this scale without it doing so. Of course, their own egos and everything are catching up to them. And as we see the cultural and societal decline, those of us who have, especially the bigger portion of Gen Z and everything, who of the Western peoples I can at least talk about, have seen the pattern and have seen, their own historic figures, the historic figures of their ancestors, the statues torn down, seen themselves, demonized, blamed for everybody else's problems. And obviously, when they know about that, they're going to start looking into the factors behind it and the people behind it, and they're going to discover facts because on the internet now we actually have the availability and the ability to do that. They're going to find other people. They have been embracing natural traditional lifestyles, eat healthier, get in good shape, all that. And eventually, if they're not doing it now, they will in the future. They will revert back to more traditional things that have sustained them for thousands of years, and the old traditions. So again, with difficult times ahead and these type of chaotic times, those of us who maybe live more in communities where others embrace those same values, people that are like us, again, we will be the ones who survive. We tend to have a lot of children. We are now, the left has lost their, they are deliberately encouraging. This is a major factor. They're deliberately encouraging their own children, those who even do have children, to not reproduce. They are terrifying them, saying the world is going to end. Destroying American domestic energy, Western energy, when we're already the clean producers, while letting the real producers, 80% of the world's pollution, coming from China, India, etc., letting them run rampant. And while they're destroying themselves and telling them not to have kids, the world's going to end, everything. The what you're seeing is obviously the apocalyptic panicking death throes. CNN is collapsing. It's fired their people. Academia can't recruit enough students to go to their colleges. Companies, if they're going to survive, and they will, they'll come up with independent training programs without the woke indoctrination. Why? Because that is what's demanded here, because it's about survival, and the economy and everything will adapt and survive itself as long as there are the people to do it. Again, we are the people who have done it in the past. Our ancestors did. If there's a smaller percentage of the population was going to have a larger percentage of the kids, that's actually how the current American population, the old stock Americans, those of us that fall into that, that's how we got here. That is, again, that's who we are. I'm part of a DNA community of about 5,000 extended cousins and one genetic community. And again, I don't normally like doing ancestry tests, anything like that. But I mean, you already have a bunch of cousins, relatives, etc., and they've already got your blood on file. If you decide to do that, they've already got a bunch of other information on you anyway. Yeah, I know. But again, we're all extremely homogenous. We all went through a very, very similar experience. We have very, very similar ancestors, and again, the Europeans who came here, settled, nation built, pioneered, they did that for a reason. They were the ones who were able to pull through and do that, who survived 7 years of indentured servitude with no incentive to keep your ancestors alive, living on nothing but a bowl of mush, and then getting thrown out into a wilderness. We've been demonizing our own history and our own people, and doing away with our own identity lately. But that's what happened. That's what they had to do to survive. And just like the nation did after Pearl Harbor, and pulled itself up by its bootstraps, well, again, we are going to be the ones to do that again. And like I said, the left is in complete, total self-destruct mode. If there's nothing you can do about it, it's what's going to happen. Whatever happens in the future, whether it's balkanization or something, and again, I mean, I'm just being very real here. Whether it's some type of balkanization or whatever it may be, those of us who are the ones who prepared for it, those of us who are the ones who, really stick to tradition with all the advantages and adaptation of modern technology, and who know how to use it, and who know to, I will say this, we need to learn about parallel economies. We need to learn about science, tech, engineering, and math. We need to embrace technology again and not reject it. You need to learn to live with it. Those are going to be the things in the future where we might be currently lacking now that we are going to have to adapt to. Now, we absolutely have been able to in the past. It's how we built Western civilization. So we're going to have to do those things again. We control the farmland. We control a vast proportion of the coasts where you can build your own ports and cities and everything if you need to. We can build our own infrastructure and transportation systems. We did it in the past, and we might have to do it again in the future. To take what's left there. But again, we have those resources. Mainly, we have the traditions and values and system and natural systems of families and community in place, just like our ancestors did way back when. It's not going to be a very small bottleneck either. It's actually a very decent portion of the population that is now waking up to this and adapting to it. Eat natural foods, get healthy, lift weights, embrace your tradition, embrace your faith. These are the kinds of things that will help us survive into the future. Again, this may sound harsh, realistic, but in reality, it's actually quite a positive thing. The fortune favors the bold, and the future favors us. This is Ozark Gilman. Y'all have a good one.